Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diego Portillo Mazal. I'm the Director of Inner City Capital Connections. Thank you for joining us. As we get started, just a couple of housekeeping issues. Nadia, do you want to go to the next slide? First thing, please rename yourself so we know who you are. We will put all the instructions on the chat box as well. Use the chat box for anything that you need. As ensure that you're on mute throughout the presentation so we don't get a lot of feedback. You please unmute yourself when we get to a question part of the presentation. And if you have any questions before that, please just drop them in the chat box or chat with any of us that have ICCC in front of our names. Without any further ado, let me turn it over to our CEO, Steve Grossman.
Diego, thank you so much, not only for kicking off this event, but also equally important for the leadership that you bring and give every day to the Inner City Capital Connections program and to your team of dedicated professionals. I particularly want to call out three of our colleagues, Anna Marie Cruz, our Western Regional Manager, whom you'll all hear from a little bit later in the program, Nadia Larasati, our Senior Program Coordinator, and Maria Galino, our Program Coordinator, newest member of the team. Maria, welcome to ICCC. You had your baptism of fire in Chicago last week, but the real thing is in Portland. I want to thank all of you for joining us here today, and I want to welcome you all to the kickoff event for our second Portland area Inner City Capital Connections cohort. Last year, as many of you know, because you were involved in the program, we had 93 business owners trained. Together, we built a strong foundation for this year's cohort. Together, our goal is to help grow and develop a small business ecosystem throughout the Portland area's most under-resourced neighborhoods and communities. There are opening seminars this year for the Portland cohort. You'll learn about that a little bit later in the program. We'll be on September 29th and October 1st. This is one of 17 Inner City Capital Connections cohorts, which we'll offer virtually in 2020 in locations and for small businesses all over the country. ICIC's mission, ICIC, the Initiative for Competitive Inner City, in case anybody gets confused about all the acronyms, ICIC's mission has always been the revitalization of America's most underserved communities. One of our principal goals during the 26 years since Harvard Business School professor Dr. Michael Porter founded ICIC is to help narrow this country's racial wealth gap. We know the numbers. 41% of all Black-owned businesses in America shut down between February and April. And the numbers for Latinx-owned businesses, for immigrant-owned businesses, for Indigenous-owned businesses are almost as bad. Many of these businesses are deeply concerned that they may never open again. We're here to work closely with you to change that reality and to make sure that does not happen. Unfortunately, during the first 4 months of the COVID crisis, disparities have been deeply distressing, disappointing, and destructive. Access to capital, emergency technical assistance, and one-on-one coaching have been severely limited, particularly for Black, Indigenous, and minority-owned businesses trying to survive. ICIC is here to help level the playing field and provide the tools and strategies to help small businesses survive and thrive. I've got an awful lot of people here to thank and to recognize, and I'm going to do it quickly, but they're all important players on this team, and we are a team. I'd like to recognize Dawn Bush, Community Health and Education Consultant for the Kaiser Foundation Health Plan of the Northwest. They are, as you all know, Kaiser is a principal sponsor of this program in the Portland area. I want to recognize Camille Applin-Jones, and I'll be introducing her a little bit later. She'll be speaking directly after I do. Camille Applin-Jones, Vice President for Ambulatory Care and Clinical Services for the Kaiser Foundation Health Plan of the Northwest. I want to recognize Dan Field, Executive Director of Community Health for Kaiser Permanente. Ruth Adkins, Government and Community Relations, Kaiser Permanente. Annie Herbert, Communications Manager, Community Health. And Elizabeth Engberg, Manager of Health and Education Initiatives, all sponsors of this program last year, as you've all played an instrumental role in kicking off the 93 small business cohort in 2019. I want to recognize two of our colleagues from National, Andaye Hill Espinoza, who's deeply involved in strategic partnerships and economic impact spending, one of the key leaders in the Intercity Capital Connections relationship between Kaiser and ICIC, and her colleague Tommy Smith, first day back from vacation. Tommy, welcome back. Manager of Economic Impact and Impact Spending in Oakland at the national office. I want to recognize Tori Campbell, Director of Economic Development from Prosper Portland. He'll be speaking a little bit later in the program, an instrumental partner and nominator in 2019 and hopefully again this year. I recognize Ashley Henry, Executive Director, Business for a Better Portland, also will be speaking briefly in just a few minutes. And Sharon Maxwell, CEO of Bratton Construction, who will represent and speak from the point of view of an alumna of the program, of the ICCC program. I want to also recognize a number of our top nominators from 2019. You don't just get to 93 companies because a few people weigh in. It requires an amazing team. So thanks again to Tommy Smith, Kaiser Permanente, Prosper Portland, Trolls Adrian, Pam Neal, Kevin Johnson, Sue Ball, and Jared Weiner for their work nominating 22 companies last year. 12 applied and all 12 attended. We want to thank for their work last year in the 2019 cohort, Ashley Henry and Colin Crater from Business for a Better Portland, nominated 23 companies, 17 applied, and almost all of them attended. We want to thank Amy Gilroy from the Oregon Department of Agriculture and Sarah Massoni from the Food Innovation Center at Oregon State. They nominated jointly 21 companies last year, and a significant number have attended. I'm delighted they're both here this afternoon. And of course, would I not recognize Janice Green from Webeck Pacific. Janice, one of ICCC's top nominators of all time, and she was recognized as a Hall of Fame nominating partner at our national conference attended by 600 small businesses in Boston last November. And finally, thanks to Anna Inclon from Craft 3, who nominated 11 companies, 6 applied, and all 6 were accepted and participated. So I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a few speakers. I'm going to introduce Camille Applin-Jones. Then we're going to toss it back to Diego. We're going to have remarks from Tori Campbell, Ashley Henry, and our alumna, Sharon Maxwell. And then we'll talk more about the program and how we're going to make this program as successful this year as it was last year. Camille Applin-Jones has 25 years of experience as a registered nurse in healthcare delivery, operations, and leadership. She began her nursing education and professional career in the United States Army, where she completed training with honors. Camille is currently attending the Executive Leadership Program at Harvard University. She's married with 3 children. Her most recent adventure was riding ATVs with her daughter in Hawaii. And Camille, I would never leave your dog out because we have 2 of them. Her newest passion is her rescue dog. And you'll have to tell us the name of your rescue dog. Let me turn it over to Camille Applin-Jones from Kaiser Foundation Health Plan of the Northwest. Camille?
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much. Well, I guess I have to start with the dog. I'm so pleased to be here. And the name of our rescue dog, her name is Elena. And our son named her after Princess Elena, who's on a pretty popular Disney Channel cartoon. So thanks for that. On to our business though. So I'm really proud to be here and very excited, have a personal passion for helping those, particularly in the African American and underserved community. And I also have a passion for health. And so I'm pleased to address you as we embark upon this journey for the next group of nominations. So for far too long, inequality has existed in underrepresented communities in our country. And I grew up in a community where people were very hardworking, but many times business owners were underrepresented, and it made it harder for them to prosper. And that is exactly what we're after for everyone who's a business owner, is to be able to prosper and provide for their families and their lifestyle at large. The COVID-19 pandemic and recent civil unrest has demonstrated the extent of this inequality, and it's unacceptable. This is a time when our commitment to health and our values compels us to do what we can to create a more healthy environment for years to come for everyone. And so together, we have to address the physical, psychological, economic, and social impacts of inequality and systemic racism to foster healthier and more equitable communities and neighborhoods. While we develop our strategies for equitable pandemic response and advance community conversations, as we must, on social justice, we're deepening our efforts to get at the heart of inequality, and we're addressing systemic racism, breaking cycles of trauma, and creating economic opportunities for community advancement. In this unparalleled moment for our organization, our country, and the world, and Kaiser Permanente, we're all taking steps to help create a better and more equitable future for our members and our communities. Kaiser Permanente is committed to investing in programs that will close the racial wealth gap that we all know exists, and you heard some of the startling statistics in Steve's opening address. And we'll do this by creating economic opportunity for underrepresented communities and driving actions against systems that promise or promote racism and create trauma. Through this work, we'll provide support to more than 2,000 businesses owned and underrepresented communities over the next year. And I'm so really proud that we're going to be able to do that. So our partnership with the ICCC, the work of the ICIC and the ICCC is an integral part of Kaiser Permanente's plan to support businesses owned by underrepresented communities and individuals. The ICCC program will not only provide support for businesses as they navigate the impacts of COVID, but also build the capacity for these businesses to grow. And that's probably one of the most important aspects, is that we have to build capacity to continue to grow. Now entering our second year of partnership, we have to look forward to supporting these new businesses in ways that will continue to foster opportunity and help our alumni adjust to the new and emerging business climate. And this is a climate, for sure, that I think we all agree we've never seen before. In addition to that partnership, we have additional partnerships. The ICIC has also partnered with Local Initiative Support Corporation, LISC, and Pacific Community Ventures. LISC will directly address the connection between economic vitality and health for individuals, as well as grow and support the health and wellness of entrepreneurs, the people that they employ, and the communities that they call home. Our partnership with the PCV will provide businesses access to expert advising, which is so important, as well as foster sustainable growth and create and maintain high standard and quality jobs. Through these partnerships, we're striving to support businesses that are owned by Black and Brown people and other underrepresented individuals to help close the racial wealth gap through access to capital, information, mentorship, and sponsorship. I'm so very pleased to represent Kaiser Permanente in this effort and to join you all in this very important journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Camille, for those great words. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Tori Campbell. Tori Campbell is the Director of Economic Development at Prosper Portland. He grew up in Portland, attended John Marshall High School, went on to attend Oregon State University, and probably got most of his education working at his family's barbecue restaurant, Campbell's Barbecue. And Tori, I'm looking forward to tasting the hot barbecue sauce, which is on its way over to my house now. Driven by the knowledge that small businesses are the engines of the city's economies, from tech startups to neighborhood retail to trade sector companies Tory collaborates with his department on strategies to achieve equitable economic outcomes that create access to livable wage jobs and small business vitality. Tory founded Prosper Portland's Mercatus Collective, an online platform elevating and connecting entrepreneurs of color in the city of Portland. As a business owner himself, Tory saw the need for a network of entrepreneurs of color and a focus on their achievements that could tell a deeper story about running a business in Portland. Without further ado, let me introduce Tory.
Thank you, Diego. Truly is a pleasure to be present on this kickoff of what we anticipate to be both a very rewarding experiences for the businesses who are able to participate, but even more so, a very imperative experience for businesses in light of the collective experience that we are all going through dealing with this pandemic. Prior to this moment, we all would have agreed that small businesses have been and will continue to be the economic engine for the city of Portland, as is the case for many cities across the nation. But more importantly, who benefits from the resources that are being deployed for those businesses probably matter more now than ever before. For us as a city, that has been our commitment over the last 4 years as we have shifted a lot of our strategic ideas, strategies, and resources to think more equitably around who is benefiting from the kinds of supports that help businesses thrive in our city and help them be able to scale and grow. Too often we find that really what businesses need universally in order to grow, no matter where they are in their business life cycle, is access to know-how. Helping businesses and business leaders figure out how to grow their business is so much around what they know and what they don't know, and really closing that gap. Access to capital, as already been mentioned, is an incredible component. I've never met a business leader and business owner who didn't have vision, but I've met many who did not have access to capital to really drive that vision and have it move forward. And we also know that not only is access to capital a vital component, but access to new markets, figuring out how to move and understand their product and service to deploy it into places that would resonate with what they're offering, but perhaps they don't know how to get there. And so much of our work as a city, as an economic development agency, has been around those core elements in all of our services we've been delivering over the last 4 years, but in particular with the lens around equity. Again, thinking who's benefiting from this work and from these efforts. And I'm very proud that many of our efforts have shown early progress towards what we believe should be a more normalized experience of the diversity of businesses we see in our city, that it shouldn't just simply be by accident, but it's because of intentional and purposeful design for us as a city, that the richness and the tapestry of small businesses makes us a stronger, more viable and competitive economy, but more importantly, it makes us a healthier community as we have representation both in business and in life together. When I think about this program, and obviously it's already been shared by Steve, our team was energized and excited to participate, having nominated many businesses that we felt like would benefit from the work that you're doing. We know very although we might find ourselves with great partners locally doing wonderful work, the work of equity and really shifting the narrative for BIPOC entrepreneurs requires all hands on deck, all the time, in all seasons, in all weather. And so it's no different even in this moment where we're in the middle of a pandemic, where people's lives are really weighing in the balance, businesses are weighing in the balance, that we find ourselves kicking off on an important moment to yet again see a partner come in and provide another layer of support and services to businesses that we feel very proud of and are excited to participate. So to that end, we feel very grateful to be here today, to celebrate what we know will be an important moment when we look back on the history of this time. It won't be simply the actions that we've done, but making sure that the actions that we have done have been done to the least of these in order to empower them to be able to pursue their dreams. We're proud as a city that early on, our muscle memory around dealing with the pandemic required us to make sure that we did not leave behind the most vulnerable in our calculation of who we should prioritize in terms of businesses that we wanted to help stabilize and try to preserve through this pandemic. And we hope that even today, this moment where we are coming together to kick off what's going to be a wonderful program is doing the very same, creating pathways for businesses led by entrepreneurs of color in our city to grow, to scale, to learn, and to navigate what is probably one of the most difficult moments in just being a business owner in our city. But yet you find yourself here and we want to lead through. And so we're really proud to be able to partner with ICCC and all of the amazing partners that you're going to and leaders that you're going to bring to support the small businesses within our city. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to join yet again on our second year. And we want to do even better. You know, the first year was amazing, obviously, but we want our sophomore year to eclipse that in terms of the kind of cooperation and support, and most importantly, the kind of thoughtful service that businesses are receiving who really need it, who deserve it, and with it are able to then pivot and shift and grow their businesses in ways that we would only assume should be possible when given the space, the resources, and the know-how to do so. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Tori. I'm going to pass the baton to Ashley Henry, and let me introduce her. Ashley is the founding executive director for Business for a Better Portland. She leads the organization's efforts to engage Portland's business leaders in the civic processes that shape the direction of the city. She is passionate about ensuring that our community's business leaders are connected with strategic opportunities to bring greater shared prosperity to all Portlanders. At less than 3 years old, the organization has grown to over 400 members. Business for a Better Portland focuses its efforts on engaging its members on critical issues facing the city, region, and state. Focus areas include the housing and homelessness crisis, the need for safe and efficient transportation, and the imperative to create greater economic opportunity for all. Ashley also serves on the coordinating board for A Home for Everyone. The city plans to address homelessness, as well as Metro President Lynn Peterson's President's Advisory Committee. She also serves on Prosper Portland's Budget Advisory Committee and supports Street Roots, Join, and other organizations working to address the homeless crisis. And on top of that, Ashley is a senior fellow with the American Leadership Forum of Oregon and a singer. So she's produced shows at notable venues such as Doug Fir and Jimmy Max to raise funds for local nonprofits. Without further ado, I'll pass it on to Ashley Henry.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here with you all, and I really want to express appreciation to Tori and his team at Prosper Portland for doing exactly what he just described, which was prioritizing those small businesses that are most in need during this very difficult time with our economy. And just really want to lift them up and say, you know, how grateful we are to be able to work with Prosper Portland as our economic development agency. I also want to thank our member Kaiser Permanente for inviting me to attend the program last year. I totally confess that I wasn't exactly sure what the breakfast was going to be about. And I always enjoy conversations about economic development and small business growth. And so I went a little bit out of curiosity and was just blown away with the opportunity that was being presented by this particular program. And that was really what inspired me at the time to promote so many of our members as applicants, nominate them for the program. And we were grateful that so many of them were accepted and were able to participate. I've heard really positive feedback from a number of our members who participated about the quality of coaching and mentoring that they received through the program, as well as the great connections to alumni that have been really important to them. So I expect that once again, we will be making a lot of nominations for the program. And for those of you listening today, I would encourage you to learn more about the program, really consider who among your membership would be a good fit for it, and really curate the matching process. That's really what we did last year to make sure that the folks we were nominating were really a good fit for the program, rather than a blanket call out to all of our members, because we have such diversity of size and location in our membership. I just want to also point out a great opportunity for the folks that are convened today is beyond just this program is the opportunity to work together to advocate for the needs of our small business community. And many of the folks in the audience today are founding members of a new coalition called Oregon Small Business United. and we have been advocating throughout the pandemic to ask for more support for our small businesses, especially those from underserved communities, both in urban and rural areas. And be happy to talk with more of you about that some other time if you'd like to reach out. So thank you again for inviting me. I hope that this year's program provides a lot of support to businesses that are struggling through the pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley. Also want to take the moment to thank again Trolls Adrian. Trolls last year took us around and introduced us personally to some of the small businesses, which led to the introduction for the coffee, and then Gail Castillo, who at the Hispanic Chamber, who introduced us to Tamale Boy. So the cohort last year was very well fed, but I really wanted to thank them both for taking the time and making those personal introductions for us. Now you're going to hear from an alum of the program, and I'm going to allow or give space to our colleague Nadia Larasati to make that introduction. So Nadia, take it away.
Thanks, Diego. It's my absolute, sorry. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce today our alumni speaker, Sharon Maxwell, CEO of Bratton Construction. Sharon is an alum of our inaugural 2019 Portland cohort, and she was one of our most engaged participants. She came from Portland to Boston for our national conference in November. It was her first time there, and it happened to be the coldest weekend ever in Boston. So despite the weather, Sharon, we were so happy to have you. I actually met Sharon at last year's kickoff breakfast that we hosted at the DoubleTree in Portland. So it's great that it has come full circle today. Sharon is a native of Portland, a graduate of Portland Community College and Warner Pacific College. She currently resides in Northeast Portland. She's been an entrepreneur all her life, and she's owned and operated her construction company, Bratton Construction, for 21 years. She started her company more than 2 decades ago to provide jobs to people who live in her community. We at ICIC are deeply grateful for her continued engagement and continued support. Thank you so much, Sharon, for being here today to share your experience. And with that, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Nadia. I really appreciate this opportunity to be asked to speak about my experience with ICIC. So with all transparency, what I'd like to just start off saying is that I'm going to be speaking about my business and also why I was motivated to join and the things that I've gotten from the program. But first of all, let me just say thank you to ICIC, Kaiser Permanente, and in his remembrance, Mr. Bernard Tyson, may he rest in peace, and Prosper Portland, who brought this to Portland. And I'm Sharon Maxwell, and I'm the owner of Bratton Construction for 21 years. I'm a general contractor and specialty contractor. We're also certified WBE, MBE, DBE, WOSB, being recertified for that. And let me just say, for 27 years, I have been living the dream that says our people are worthy. So my story is unique, but then it's not unique. Okay, many business owners in the community are like myself. When I heard about this opportunity, I was on sabbatical from running my own business to return to college and completed 2 bachelor's and my master's degree for 5 years. I had actually come upon an opportunity from my professor that said that there was a position in East Portland, East County, that they needed an executive director at the Good News Community Health Center. So when I heard about this opportunity, I was the executive director for that clinic. Well, I thought, what a great opportunity for small businesses that Kaiser Permanente and ICIC we're going to make this huge investment into Portland's community and the small businesses. And during that time, what ended up happening, I had a medical emergency. So I had to step back from that opportunity, but I still thought, what a great opportunity for my business, for me to be able to recommend my business to participate in the ICCC program. When I heard that this was an opportunity for small businesses to be able to get some support and help, I thought about different businesses that I got the word out to. And as that executive director, when I was in that position, that was my job, was to connect with small businesses in East Portland. So I got the word out. And for me, for my business, after having completed my two bachelors and a master, I said, what an opportunity to be able to get some practical support. So when I attended the initiative breakfast and heard all of the workshop speakers, I was totally ready to move forward. There was so much new information and information that I already knew, but I thought this would be a great opportunity because they talked about how do we access capital. That's what I'd been having problems with, is accessing capital for my business to be able to have operating capital, payroll, to be able to meet my payroll, to be able to meet my expenses on time, to be able to have better relationships with my vendors so that I could get a better competitive edge. And through the workshops and the webinars, that's what I was able to really tap into, was how do I really get the type of capital that I needed, and how do I connect all of the dots to make it work for my company at this time. And so I was really glad that I had the opportunity to go to the national conference in Boston, which was my first time. That was a phenomenal experience. The way that they had the layout, the setup, to be able to meet business owners nationally from all over the country, to hear different stories. I mean, it was really mesmerizing to where that I was so energized when I was leaving. I was just like ready to go like an Energizer bunny, even with experiencing that medical emergency that kind of was putting a little lag, you know, in my momentum for the moment. And so what all I was able to benefit from was the workshops, the webinars, the networking experience, the national conference, the initial speakers, which were, wow, people from Harvard, from Yale. And I just thought, you know, the fact that ICCC and Kaiser wanted to do this to help small minority businesses and businesses that were in low-income areas, I could just see the word that I wrote down was a refreshing hope. That's what I received from this opportunity, was the refreshing hope for my business. And so if you're a business owner and you're looking for a great opportunity to retool, refire, touch and access capital in various different ways to accelerate, to grow your business, and also just to refresh yourself as a business owner in times of COVID. You know, let us not, you know, be transparent. We're living in the times of a national pandemic and COVID, and I myself have experienced, you know, COVID symptoms as a person that would be considered a high-risk person, and been tested twice for COVID, and I got negative, so I'm still here, yay. And so to hear that ICIC and Kaiser are going to be talking about how does a small business continue to move forward in COVID, I think that's really, really important at this time. How do we tap into, how do you sell your product, your services, how do you keep your employees? That to me is very important, and keep them on deck and moving forward with you as you get projects or, just moving your company forward. So thank you, ICIC and Kaiser Permanente and Prosper Portland. And thank you for allowing me to share. And I hope I didn't miss anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you both. Reflected the experience from last year and also raised a lot of the points that we've been thinking about as we considered what the program looked like this year in what is a seminal moment for so many of the small business owners. For a lot of them, this is a crucial make or break moment, and it has needed a lot of retooling and rethinking about the entirety of the program. While a lot of the core components remain the same, the focus had to change a little bit. So let's spend a couple minutes just talking about the program itself. I will then pass the baton to my colleague Anna Marie Cruz, who will talk sort of the logistics of the nomination process, and then we'll open it up to questions. The program, as you've heard, is basically a four-part program. There is an opening seminar, what we normally would have had in person as a one-day seminar is now a virtual 2 half-day seminar, all in the same week. We'll come back to that. Followed by a series of webinars. We'll host somewhere north of 18 webinars over the course of the year. We already started with a number of webinars in March and kept going, and we're hosting actually 2 tomorrow, one on leadership and one on a conversation about racial justice. So just to give you an idea of the kinds of webinars that we host. Because we think it's truly important, coaching is the next element. And coaching takes 2 main branches, one which is capital coaching, allowing a small business owner to put together their pitch, conversation, and sitting in front of a capital provider who allows them to refine it and gives them pointers on how to define what it is that they're looking for, what kind of capital would be the best serve, or what mix of capital would be the best serve for that, and helps them get to that point. The second side of the the coaching part, is obviously business technical assistance. We partner with SCORE, the SBDC, Pacific Community Ventures, some of the chambers, and so many of the programs to make sure that the businesses find the solution that they're looking for their problems or their issues at that particular moment. It is always amazing how many small business owners are just unaware of even the free resources that are in their community and the people who are trying to help. This year, of course, this need has become even more dramatic and more urgent than ever. So we've been helping people connect to emergency technical assistance, help them navigate the PPP process, the EIDL, and local grants and other such structure. And then finally, as Sharon well mentioned, the national conference. This year, the national conference will bring together participants from roughly 16 cities or 16 sites. The fact that this is all virtual has allowed alumni from across the country to join us, even in places where we didn't have a cohort. And so we will expect to see them in some form of a virtual conference in early December to continue their learning, their networking, and observing a kinder, gentler Shark Tank, and continue to network with capital providers. Nadia, we'll go on to the next slide. What some of the adjustments that we've made for a COVID-19 world as we go along. Of course, as I mentioned, we have been rethinking what this means and asking every one of our professors and every one of the webinar providers to think about short-term business recovery strategies and crisis management, everything in an effort to make sure that we can help the businesses to survive and thrive through this crisis, COVID-19 crisis, the racial justice crisis, the lockdowns, etc. All the ICCC events this year are being offered virtual. So we've had to do a lot of rethinking on that. And then we created and continue to curate a small business resource center on our webpage that has not just our resources, but resources national and local throughout the program. Through our partners and everybody else who's doing this work. The program this year, again, focuses on strategies for small businesses to lead, survive, and thrive. That means focusing on business recovery strategies, on capital relief solutions, continuing to strengthen and build the community, both for the business owners and for the ecosystem as one. We've done a tremendous amount of advocacy for small businesses and continuing to push the survey, make sure that we have the data with which to back the need for support for small businesses. And then again, the one-on-one coaching, which has been more important than ever. So our own, again, continuing to offer the seminars. And the last thing I'll mention about the program itself is a number of the participants had asked us for more opportunities for them to connect with each other. So we have created a number of CEO groups, smaller groups and opportunities for the business owners to study together, brainstorm together, and continue through this process in small groups of 6 or 7 companies as opposed to a large cohort of 95 as we had in Portland last year. This is all through our app as well as through the website, and we are also hosting a monthly series of happy hours to continue those opportunities for the business owners to connect with each other. What we've heard from business owners, and many of you probably have heard the same thing, is entrepreneurship is a lonely business most of the time. And in this year, when the opportunities to get together are even more limited, that becomes more lonely. So finding ways for people to continue to connect and chat and just share ideas, because new and incredible things come out of that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my colleague Anna Marie Cruz, who will take us through the actual nomination process. Anna Marie?
Thank you, Diego, and thank you everyone for your time today. I really appreciate your time. I dressed up for this today. One of 2 times I'll probably dress up this week. So I just want to make sure that I get your attention for this part, because this is really important. As you have heard from everyone who's spoken so far, you are our ears and eyes on the ground. You are the stewards of this community, and we hear from, Boston are not here to interrupt the ecosystem building that you're doing, rather to enhance it. So we really rely and trust our partnership with you to identify the candidates that will benefit most from this program and who will really appreciate the local community that we build through the program with your partnership, as well as the national network that they will gain. So I just want to go through the mechanics of the nomination and application process so you can understand the many pieces of communication that you and your nominees will receive from us. So the first thing, of course, is again to identify people within your network. Whether you're a business owner, a technical assistance provider, a capital provider, an ecosystem builder, you're all here on this call because, again, you have a vast network of small business entrepreneurs who might be an ideal candidate. So once you identify them, the next step is really to communicate to two parties. The first party is your nominee, which means that you will inform them that you've identified them for this program and you'd like for them to apply. The second party you'll communicate to would be us. So what we'd really like to do is coordinate with you and find out who this list is so that we can also follow up with them and, in essence, also follow up with you and give you a status of your nominations. Now, once you have sent us your nominations, we will follow up with them and encourage them to apply. During that time, we also ask that if you are in touch with your nominees to continue to encourage them if they have not already applied. Once they apply, they will then set up a call with our team to interview. That interview process is really to gauge both their interest, their fit for the program, and whether they are available to commit to the dates that are available. I do want to make a note that while we have a set of dates for Portland, because we are now in a virtual format, one of the silver linings of that is we have more flexibility to be able to admit them to different cohorts. So while they may be taking the opening seminar courses outside of Portland, they'll still be connected to the local community for those happy hours or those different gatherings that Diego had mentioned. At the same time, they'll have flexibility to choose the opening seminar that fits for their schedule. And then after they go through, obviously, the interview, we determine the fit, they will then be asked to sign up for the cohort that works for them. I do also want to mention that when we have candidates that are not a fit for this program, we ensure that we are sending them back or referring them to other resources in the community. So while the nomination is one of the ways that we partner, there are other ways that we can collaborate, one of them being another resource provider for businesses that are not yet a fit for this program. Other ways would be education. Perhaps you have a subject matter expertise that you provide technical assistance on. We are always looking for partners on our webinars and different educational opportunities to enhance the experience for our participants. So we can go to the next slide. Now I'd like to explain the dates and why it is that we're launching this kickoff on July 20th, but we're not conducting our seminar until September 29th, which seems like a long lag time. So it's actually a pretty busy next few months in between now and September 29th. As I mentioned, we go through the nomination and application process. In addition to that interview process. So the two dates I'd like to emphasize are going to be the nomination deadline, which is August 21st, and then the absolute deadline for that application, which is September 4th. If you can keep those dates handy, please do so, and we'll be in communication with you after this event to give you further instructions and additional resources that you can have as you go through the nomination process.
Anna Marie, just before you move on, the one thing I do want to emphasize is that businesses that apply now in July can already start watching webinars, can already start taking advantage of the resources. They can already get connected to a coach. So there's a lot of this that happens. Of course, I think Sharon mentioned just how busy a business owner is. The first time that you send them an email and let them know that you've identified this program as a resource for them, it can take 5, it can take 7 touches before the business owner is ready to sign on. That's why this timeline is as long as it is. So
That's right. Yes. Thank you. Okay, next slide. All right, so 2 more dates that we'd like for you to keep in mind will be the opening seminar series. These are 2 half-day, non-consecutive days that in which we deliver the content through the 4 modules that the business owners will get to learn about, but also really explore. We've had a lot of really great practical examples discussed in these sessions. So on one hand, it's educational, but on the other hand, it's also very practical, that offers immediate sort of exploration of the pivots and the retooling that we've been talking about. So these 2 dates are September 29th and October 1st, and they are 2 half days, so 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. The first day will include a networking session, and then the second day will include an introduction to the CEO working groups, and those are groups that will continue throughout the program. And I do want to also mention that for those of you who are maybe wearing multiple hats today, perhaps you are a leader at your organization, but you also are a business owner, you are welcome to apply to this program as well. And you're also welcome to observe if you're currently not a business owner, but you'd like to understand what your nominees are taking from this. Please let us know if you'd like to be part of it. So with that, we're really excited to launch this cohort with you, build this with you, and we're looking forward to your questions. So I think we can go ahead and open that now.
hold on, Anna Marie, I think I'll mention 2 more things. I will mention one, because the content has pivoted somewhat to be really focused on the current moment. We are seeing a number of alumni returning to do the program again. So again, the focus changing just a little bit, and in emphasis, it will still be strategy, marketing, entrepreneurial finance, talent management, and a resource panel, but the focus will be slightly different. So we're seeing a number of alumni. And the final point is, all of this is tuition free for the business owners. So there is no cost other than spending those hours with us and filling out the survey a year later and letting us know how the business is progressing. So with that, yes, let's open it up for questions.
I do want to make one more note. I saw that Janice Green from Rebec had joined us after our acknowledgements. As Steve had mentioned, Janice is part of the Nominator Hall of Fame. She would be a great person to talk to if you're interested in learning more about that. But Janice, we just want to thank you for your partnership and for making our first Portland cohort such a success.
The first question we have is from Debbie Molohan, Tiger Chamber. Thank you. Specific criteria. Nadia, do you want to go back to the slide? I think I missed that one. The business size is not particularly important this year. It matters that they're past proof of concept. So we do not deal with startups. We traditionally deal with businesses that have been around for more than 2 years. To be entirely clear, most of our businesses have been around a lot longer than that. The average age of the businesses is closer to 10 years, but so just no startups. We took out the business size criteria. We traditionally said $500,000 in revenue or more. This year, we're really focused on helping as many businesses as possible. Underserved communities or economically distressed areas, we use that in very wide terms. We talk about LMI and opportunity zones and a number of other criteria to search that. So zip codes are not exactly always a great indicator. You see some very rich parts of the city and some very poor parts of the city in the same zip code. But if you have any questions about whether a business would qualify or not, please just get in touch with Anna Marie or Nadia and send us an address, and we're happy to run it first and let you know whether their address would qualify or not. In terms of hard exclusions, obviously we're doing this with the sponsorship of a healthcare organization. So in shorthand, I would say ATF, no alcohol, tobacco, firearms, or cannabis. And so those are the true hard exclusions in terms of business types. Material for non-native English speakers. Aldo, I would love to follow up with you on that offline. I think we are having translation services in a couple of the other cohorts. If there is a dramatic need, we could add it to Portland, but if there's just a few businesses that you think would be more comfortable in Spanish in particular this year, we would have that available in some of the other cohorts and have your participants join us in one that does have the translation services. We will be hosting a number of the webinars directly in Spanish, and we are working on coaches and other support in Spanish. We have not yet started to access other languages. Our first effort into this is this year with Spanish translation. I'd like to open the mic, so if anybody has other questions, please go ahead and unmute yourselves and just go ahead and ask them.
See, Diego, when you and Anna Maria are that good presenting the program and clarifying every question, it doesn't leave many questions for people to ask. I know we're at the hour, and I cannot stress too strongly how grateful we are to Kaiser Permanente for what they have done, particularly over the last 5 years, starting with one cohort in Los Angeles in 2016, which was a pilot. This year, there'll be 10 separate cohorts in locations all over the country, with an additional as many as 2 or 3 more next year. There is no region of the country in which Kaiser works where there is not a cohort or a group of companies being recruited to participate in the program. And that really has a lot to do, as was said earlier, with the social and economic determinants of health, and the knowledge and understanding that if a small business ecosystem develops and grows because of a partnership with lots of nonprofits in the community, a lot of things happen. Life expectancy goes up, the incidence of diabetes and cardiac disease and low birth weight babies and hypertension, all the problems that afflict communities which are characterized by high levels of poverty, begin to diminish. So we're so deeply grateful to Kaiser, but to all of you, because this cohort last year was the reflection of the work of an awful lot of individuals, a lot of organizations, and a lot of collegiality and a lot of collaboration. So we look forward to September, the end of September and early October, as Anna Marie laid it all out. And Diego, I'll toss it back to you for any final remarks before we let people go about their business, unless there are other questions or comments that anybody would like to add.
Kevin, hold on. I see Kevin asking about an alum am I allowed to nominate or should I work for my nominator? No, Kevin, you're absolutely welcome to invite and nominate anyone and encourage them to apply. So that's first. And then I see Kevin asking about the national conference. The national conference did move to the West Coast, and then obviously we've already made the decision to have it as a virtual cohort. It will be in December, and we're looking and working very actively with an alum organization to make sure that we have a virtual conference that is just as powerful as the in-person conference was in years past. I think that's all the questions we had. Hold on, I do see one more. If an alum would like to participate, you don't need to be nominated again. Go ahead and apply and just be in touch with Anna Marie or Nadia or Maria, and that's all you need to do is just reapply. So with that, I would like to thank everybody for joining us and spending the hour with us. Looking forward to working with all of you. Looking forward to seeing many of you at the virtual kickoff. Unfortunately, we won't be able to be there in person, but looking forward to sharing, continuing the learning, and continuing the networking with all of you. Thank you, and stay well.